Afghanistan. We listened earlier to Defense Secretary Robert Gates. We are now watching Secretary of State Hillary Clinton testifying right now. Tomorrow, Secretary Gates and Joint Chiefs Chairman Admiral Mike Mullen head over to the House Armed Services Committee. So we'll be watching all of that. In the meantime, joining me right now are two members of that committee. Both also have unique perspectives on the mission. Republican Representative Duncan Hunter of California served in Iraq and Afghanistan as an officer in the Marine Corps. Democratic Representative Joe Sestak served 31 years and retired as an admiral. He ran battle group operations in Afghanistan, now running for Senate. They both are joining me from Capitol Hill this morning. Heck of an intro, guys. Thanks for being here. We sure do appreciate it. I know you were all ears last night to the president's speech and the new plan for Afghanistan. Let me begin with you, Congressman Sestak. Listen with me, if you would, to a portion of the speech last night, clearly the main point of the entire address, and I'll get to your comment on the backside here. Mm-hmm.
As Commander-in-Chief, I have determined that it is in our vital national interest to send an additional 30,000 U.S. troops to Afghanistan. After 18 months, our troops will begin to come home. These are the resources that we need to seize the initiative while building the Afghan capacity that can allow for a responsible transition of our forces out of Afghanistan.
Representative Sestak, as a former commander, an admiral, as we have said, in the Navy, how do you feel about a commander-in-chief pointing out the mission, sending troops over, and then at the same time telling them that they'll be coming back 18 months later? Can you do that?
I think this president made two things very clear. Very first off, he said, this is really, if you read this speech, not about Afghanistan. It's about Pakistan and the safe haven for al-Qaeda in that country. Second, he is telling the Afghanis that there is going to be a deadline by which we will begin pulling our troops out, and you will accept responsibility. But he did not say when we would have all the troops out. I believe a better approach also would be to provide benchmarks by which we might measure success and failure, so we know how well this strategy is doing. Now, this president was resolute in making sure, with the right decision, that a measured increase would be focused on al-Qaeda that threatens us. But he made sure the Afghanis know that we are not going to be here all this time, so you've got to assume responsibility because it's about al-Qaeda, not just your country.
Right, obviously. I read the speech and I watched the speech live. Representative Hunter, I would ask, why do you say a timetable at all in this current speech? Everybody knows that there are military contingency plans that are worked on. There are always caveats. I just wonder about the choice to put the exit plan in the same sentence.
You know, first off, I'm encouraged by the, President's ability to make a decision finally, that he has finally made a decision on this, and that he is giving General McChrystal what he needs. Mm-hmm. First rule of warfare, don't let the enemy know what your strategy is. You're going to have Taliban and al-Qaeda now saying to all the Afghan people, all the different police people, different military folks, if you help them, we're going to kill you in about 18 months. Our surge, the big Taliban surge, is going to start July 2011. I think that was a mistake. You know, the administration could have talked to Pakistan, could have talked to the Afghan government and said, look, here's your actual timeline. It could have been secret. We didn't have to know about it. Taliban didn't have to know about it. Al-Qaeda didn't have to know about it. Osama bin Laden now knows when we're going to leave Afghanistan. I think that was kind of sending mixed messages. We're going to send you in there, but we're going to pull you out again in 18 months, and we're going to let everybody know what our strategy is. President Obama could have done that in secret. That would have been, I think, a much better move.
Representative Sestak, it's an interesting point, never letting the enemy know what you're doing on any level. I also wonder about him talking about what a vital national interest this is, this portion of the world, to the United States. If that's the case, don't you announce that your country, that your troops will be asked to do whatever is in the best interest of the vital national security issue?
Yes, without a question. And Duncan and I were both on the ground in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. That's an area of the world I've never seen people keep secrets. All that said, it's very important for this president to make sure that two things occur. Number one, that after 8 years of not paying attention to this theater of the war, because we paid attention to Iraq, and as the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff said, Afghanistan, 2 years was spiraling downward, that the public needs to know that this is not going to be one where it's an open-ended commitment for Afghanistan. But he made very clear in that speech that as far as al-Qaeda was concerned, and he included Yemen and Somalia, that we will hunt them down. It's not about Afghanistan. He made that clear. We want to leave conditions there where the probability of al-Qaeda ever coming back does not exist. He made it very clear that the success of the global war of terror is hunting al-Qaeda wherever they might be. He said this is the epicenter of it, and we will find them there or elsewhere. No, this president made that clear.
Let's talk for a minute, if we could, quickly to the both of you, Representative Hunter. What about NATO? Is NATO going to be committing more to this fight?
NATO has to. That's pretty simple. I think that's one reason we have 30,000 troops and not 40,000 troops or 50,000 troops, is because we expect NATO to actually step up and supply us. We aren't talking about Great Britain, Canada, and Australia, who have been overwhelmingly supportive of all of our operations in Afghanistan.
Yes.
We need the other countries to step up too. Germany, France,
Is that going to happen? Did that
Poland,
happen with the speech last night?
I don't know. The president's really got to lean on these other countries. Secretary Gates has been leaning on them for about a year and a half now, and we really have to get them in. I don't know what the president can do to lean on them more. He's going to have to think of something, though. This is going to be seen as a big failure on NATO's part if they don't help us out to secure and achieve victory in Afghanistan, I think.
If I could comment on that.
Of course.
I was always taken, and this, Duncan is right, that we want to bring them into this. When I had command of the battle group after I was taken out of Afghanistan, I had 30 ships. 20 of them were non-U.S. And we have to make sure we have a coalition that is in there with us. But all that said, they struck us. And at the end of the day, 4 or 5 years from now, despite whoever else comes and helps us, if we are struck because we just didn't do our job because more didn't come from the other side, that's irresponsible.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, this is our mission to do.
Okay, understood. I was just wondering, obviously the Article 5 that we talk about when we talk about NATO that came into play September 12th, that I remember, of course, 2001, the day after September 11th. Does an Article 5 expire?
No.
And, you know, radical Islam and the jihad that's been committed against Europe, America, all the Western civilization, it's a world issue, a global issue, and everybody should be involved in this. It shouldn't just be us. Europe's gotten struck too by al-Qaeda. They need to help us out here. In fact, it's probably more in their interest because you have all these old Russian Soviet satellite states there, just north of Afghanistan. This is a very important area. It's probably more important to these European countries that they win in Afghanistan.
Well, clearly we will be watching very closely as we continue to get more information about the plan here and who is not going to be committing their troops. To the both of you, always a pleasure to get your perspectives, particularly because you have served and served so well. We appreciate your service, Representative Sestak and Representative Hunter.
Thanks again, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Top stories now. One security officer is dead and another 11 people are wounded after a